Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Buy Round Interview Show. Today we are joined by one of the faces of the game. So much to talk about. A man that wears many hats as well. Braith Anasta, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Jimmy. I've been watching a few of your podcasts and you're killing it, mate. So it's an honour to be.
Thank you, mate. How's things going, mate? Big night last night.
Yeah, I was wondering if we'd talk about that. Big Jimmy going toe to toe with Buzz. I think you did a good job, mate. It was compelling viewing, and you get different reactions from the NRL 360, and every now and then you get a big one. And last night was it. So a lot of people tuned in, and a lot of people were thinking that Buzz before the show reckons he's $1.08, but I think if you backed him, you've done your nuts. Jimmy's the winner.
Well, I guess I wasn't looking at it as a battle or a boxing match. It was just, I had my opinions and my thoughts, and so did he. And it was done in a respectful manner as well. I think sometimes debates and arguments can get personal, but it was done in a respectful manner, and a respect Buzz for his stature in the game and his level of detail and his want to get to his version of the truth. And I want to get. Well,
Buzz has got some big stories, right? He, love him or hate him, and he's been on here. He works hard, and he
doesn't he just?
He does, and he breaks a lot of big stories. Majority are spot on. A lot, some are off the mark. And I think. The one last night, in particular, I think it's one of those ones where I believe, and I sat back and let you guys go, but unless you've played the game, sometimes, journos get the shits when you say it, but a lot of times they've got every right to write their stories and have their opinions. But I think the one around mental health and around the Bulldogs in particular, unless you've played at the club, you know what it stands for, you've been involved with the Dogs and you've played at a high level and you've been successful like you kind of... it's hard to sort of, I suppose, see how Buzz can understand and see it how we do. And I think that's why there's such a different take on it from your perspective and his. But I was definitely with you last night.
Yeah, well, I think for me, like we've spoke about with the mental health aspect, it's you can walk on eggshells around it, but the more we talk about it, the better it is. I know that football club in particular, they want to do everything they can to understand if anybody has issues, but also there's doctor-patient confidentiality, so you don't always know.
Yeah.
But you set up an environment where people will flourish. It's not necessarily at a player level. It could be people in the backroom staff or the upstairs staff as well. And like I said, I suffer from mental health issues, which medicate, therapy, but the last thing I need is a special pass or preferential treatment or to be treated differently, because I think if you do that, then an evidence will support this, that it actually makes things worse in the long run.
Yep.
So look, I'm pretty strong on that, and I think that the club are supporting the individual. Like of course they do.
The club and the NRL. I'm big on mental health too. I always have. I think it's pretty well known, but my dad committed suicide when I was 15. I'm a big advocate for it, and we all have tough times. We all struggle. You've got cost of living, interest rates going up, separation going up, divorce. So the reality is we're all going to have hurdles and troubles and things to overcome in our life and adversity. But the older you get, you realise that these moments, like the young Canterbury kid, what he would have went through, actually builds resilience and makes you stronger and makes you the person that you are. And it's a part of life, not just professional athletes, like guys digging holes, and they go to work with shit on their mind. They go to work with maybe going through separations, not seeing their kids. Everyone's going to have struggles in life, and but it's not a ticket to not working or not doing your job, or it really isn't. I think we've got to push it aside, protect the player and look after them. But sometimes maybe it's just not for them. Like the sport of rugby league might not be for them, or maybe they need a break from it. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think like all this, we've got to be very careful with the mental health and in professional sport and all that sort of thing. It's getting a bit crazy.
Yeah, and look to what actually will work, and providing people with the support to come out of those situations, because your red carpet walk through life gives you nothing. Absolutely. And there's actually evidence to back this up. I spoke with a doctor who specializes in resilience, and there's a certain type of tree that exists in the wild, and they tried to replicate the conditions to be perfect for this tree to grow. Like, so you put it in a greenhouse, the sunlight, the oxygen levels, and they actually thought by looking at all these different elements, they grow a stronger tree.
Yeah.
But because it wasn't exposed to the storms and the winds, the roots didn't grow as deep.
Yeah.
So these trees just kept falling over, despite the fact they had the perfect water, the perfect nutrients, the perfect sunlight. Everything was like almost massaging these trees to like thinking they're going to be perfect. They just kept toppling over because they weren't exposed to the storm. So these examples exist in nature and in life. It was like,
great analogy.
You've got to go through like plan or some, and also in a football club, it's hard to replicate adversity and difficult. So you've got to almost do it like and be unfair. I know in my time at the Bulldogs, like and other football clubs as well, where we would be playing and practicing, and coaches and trainers would deliberately say that person's not made the line.
Yeah.
Start again. And you're like, did we?
Yeah.
Test what we're made of. Make a really bad refereeing decision, in the scrummaging, because we're going to test. We're going to see what these guys are made of.
Reaction.
Yeah.
Because at the back end of games, Jimmy, in finals and winning premierships, you're going to be tested to the ultimate. Like, you're going to be seeing stars, going to that dark place, and your discipline and your work ethic is going to be tested in front of hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people. So what are you going to do? You're going to walk off the field. That's how you win comps. I spoke to Coops about it, Cooper Cronk, and I didn't get to press him last night because we had so much to cover because you took all the airtime. But he said, mate, we did it for 10. I did it for 10, 12, whatever it was at Melbourne. Like they wrestled and trained and were punished, and like that. It was the norm. And look at the team they had in the dynasty they had there for a long period of time. It's not a coincidence.
No, and it's not, and it is bloody hard.
It's hard work, mate. It'll test you, but because not only are you living it, physically, mentally, but you're in the public eye, so there's nowhere to hide. And I think that's what gets a lot of the players is that, a lot of players come from low socioeconomic and humble kids, and especially the Polynesians and Indigenous, and then they're just put in this limelight, and they have to do it, under the bright lights, and they're exposed, and that's the tough. I think that's what's tough for, and the difference between the punter and the professional athlete.
Yeah, well, I think about that quite a lot, and a lot of these kids grow up on social media, but then it changes when you become a person of interest. So you got all these people that get their access to you, and that's not normal.
No.
It's not normal.
And again, you're not used to criticism because you've been successful your whole life. When you're like, imagine being one of the best players in the game, their upbringing, they would have been the kid.
Yeah.
The winner. They would never have lost, and they would never have had people criticise them. All they've had is people put them on a pedestal. So now all of a sudden you're dealing with it in a public forum. It's I'm glad Instagram and all that wasn't around when I played, because it was tough enough as it was. So I appreciate it. But again, you got to go back to really, you've got to take it head on and deal with it, because it ain't going anywhere.
No. Yeah. Well, even you give access to fans from other football clubs that by nature hate you. Like, it's their job to distract you, to get you off your game, because they care about their football club. And it's a difficult thing to navigate and manage. But even just going back to the point about the players involved in the football club and what they think and feel about the environment and the culture. Like, I'm not that far removed from being a footballer, and I know I lived in a bubble for 17 years. And I did some things when I was part of successful and unsuccessful organisations that I look back on and go, you know what, I was wrong because I didn't know better. The coaching staff knew better.
Yeah.
They know what's right for me. If I set my own agenda and my own training schedule, like you'd get some guys there that would go, well, nah, my shoulder's a bit sore, I'm not going to do weights. But you know what, we need to do this. You get some guys that would come in and go, I'm a bit sore today. Nah. And we as a player, we can be in this bubble where you just think, oh, I'm right.
It's a massive bubble.
It is.
And again, if you're in this bubble and you don't kind of learn from all of this as your career goes on, then you transition from player to life after footy, which is a tough one and a long one. You struggle more, you know. So that's why you'd like to think or hope that a lot of players, like now I look after a few players, but it's like I like to be raw and honest and upfront because you want them you want to prepare them for the worst, you know. If you have yes men around you or people just telling you, what you want to hear all the time, you just dig in a hole. You can't run from it.
Catches up with you.
It catches up. It definitely catches up with you at some point in your career, if not after.
Yeah, and or your life, which again, it makes the problem. It magnifies the problem later down the track. But anyway, on to you and your successful life and career. I did a little bit of research on. I don't know if you know this, but when you Google Braith Anasta, geez, that first picture that pops up on the beach in Coogee or right? Bondi, shirt off.
I haven't Googled
looking
myself
like,
lately.
Mate, get it
I might
done.
have to, huh?
Mate, well, it's the first thing that you're shirtless on the beach.
Right?
It's not your football career. It's you on the beach, rigatoni out, looking like an absolute snack.
Oh, mate, I'll take it. I don't know why. Mate, I have a big emphasis on training, but you know what, Jimmy, you just take the good when you can, mate. I'll run with that. I'll run with that.
Mate, I wish I had the same problem. Nobody needs to see me with my shirt off on the beach. Jesus, that would be awful, mate. Well, I was really interested. We had a sports lunch last Friday, and I was probably a little bit naive to this because I was living in England at the time and not aware of the story. But coming through as a Souths junior, with very, very strong ties to that football club, did you feel any amount of pressure while you were there?
Yeah, it was a unique situation. I grew up in a rugby league family, so my uncle was George Piggins, president of Souths, coach Souths, and one of the greats of South Sydney. Played for Australia, and it was so from the second I was born, I had a football in my hand, and I wanted to play for Souths, and just one red eye, one green eye, and played all through the grades, and won SG ball, all that sort of thing, and then. I was on the verge of playing. I nearly played first grade actually at 16, which was an interesting one. I'm lucky it didn't happen, but I think it was actually Tugger, Craig Coleman, interestingly enough, that was struggling. And I was kind of, I played SG ball and he wanted to play me in first grade in the halves at 16. And I didn't know about it until later, but he rang my uncle and said, I want to pick Braith. And my uncle said no.
Oh really?
Yeah, which was a good thing,
Yeah.
Like I think that the success I had early, which we may get to or not, but it kind of impacted me and caught up on me later because of the expectation and pressure around me. But this was all part of it. And then South Sydney, Jimmy, a lot of people. All South fans know, but a lot of people kind of forget this part of the history of the game. They were gone for a couple of years, and I just wanted to play for South my whole life. My dream was to play for South. My dad had played one game, first grade for South, so it meant a lot to me. And then George rang me when they were going through that battle, when they got kicked out, and he said, mate, they're gone. And he rang me before anyone knew. He just knew that the NRL had told them, you're out. And he said, we've got to get you out of here. Because he knew I was on the verge kind of playing first grade over that year or two, and I couldn't stay there and just hope over 3 or 4 years that they'd come back, and sacrifice my career and all the hard work. So I had Melbourne and Chris Anderson flew to Melbourne. I had the Roosters with Artie Beetson and Freddie, and then I had the Bulldogs. And George hated the Roosters because that rivalry was just as strong then as it is now, if not stronger. And he said, "You're not going there. You're not fucking going to the Roosters," he said. And I'm like, okay, no worries. Because he was like my dad.
And how old are you at this point?
16, 17, yeah. And my dad had only passed a year and a half, 2 years beforehand. So I was like a bit of a lost sheep, I didn't have much guidance. I had my mum, who was amazing, but I was just pretty much led by George and put my trust into him. And then I didn't want to go to Melbourne for only one reason. They were an amazing setup. And you could see the success that was about to happen there because they were so professional. But I would have to leave my mum, and obviously because of the circumstances, I didn't want to. And so Canterbury was the pick. And I remember driving out there. And I'm I'm from, I grew up in Malabar. I was living in Malabar at the time, and I'm driving out there going, where the fuck are we going here? Like there's bars on the windows. Like, for me, a kid from the eastern suburbs, I'm going, shit. And it was a different world. But it was an amazing place and an amazing decision for me, and ended up setting myself up. We talk about resilience and talk about work ethic and standards, not only for rugby league, but for life. The Bulldogs ended up being a great place for me at the time and for my later years. But that's how I ended up there. That's how I didn't play for South. Really, I would have been a one club player, Jimmy. Similar to Suddo. Suddo had the same sort of path as me. He was a couple of years behind me, but he was Kensington United. I was Maroubra Lions. I think if they hadn't have been kicked out, I just would have played there my whole life. Yeah.
When you go to the Bulldogs, obviously a lot of attention on you. How were you received by the playing group?
Yeah, this is good too. But I had Darren Britt, Craig Polomount, Steve Reardon, Barry Ward. Mate, they treated me like a little spoilt brat from the eastern suburbs. That was their perception of me straight away. I walked in the door, Gary Carden, Gaz, he flogged the shit out of me, you soft prick, Get on the fucking rower, and his objective was to break you. And he goes, you're not fucking playing first grade. He have a look at you, you haven't even done any fucking weights, you soft fucking pretty boy from the eastern suburbs. And I'm just going, all right. And, he tests you because he wants to break you. And his objective was to break you and to see your reaction. So there was a bucket. They'd put a bin near the rower because everyone that went there, they'd want you to throw up and break you. And they'd flog you till you thought that there was a program. There's no program. He's just taking you to the to the cliff.
You don't get informed of like, are you going to do 10 300s? It's just like, we'll keep you going.
Yeah. Take you to the cliff, and do you jump or do you not? And anyway, he broke me, and he said, pretty much, see you tomorrow. If you don't come back, then fuck you. You're not welcome here. That's what that's the mentality.
Yeah.
They want to know what your character is straight away. They want to know if you've got it or not. And it may, I'm too competitive, and I suppose the guys that are going to make it, there's a reason for it. And I went home and I was dead, but I went back the next day and I said, let's go. And within 2 years I'm playing first grade, and I walked up to Gaz and I said, fuck you.
Yeah. But he loved that.
But thank you. But thank you.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have been able to do that without him.
Yeah, because, like we said, you don't necessarily know what's best for you.
That's right. That was best for me. Like that was, like the only way to go from there is two ways. It's like, but again, it's life lessons. When the shit hits the fan and someone passes away, or you lose your job, or, your marriage breaks down, what are you going to do? You just give up? Or are you going to fucking keep fighting? Like they're life lessons that I learned there at the Dogs that not only made me a better player, but just made me a better person. And as tough as it was, I wouldn't be on Fox Sports now hosting the coverage. There's no way, because it's taught me to never give up, to keep fighting, to win at all costs, to work. My work ethic is, I believe, I'm proud of the way how hard I work and the hours I put in and all that. Like that's built from walking into a club that had standards, life standards, and you said, how did they receive you? Well, it took a few months, but by the end I was received well. Like they saw that I was there for business, and they saw that I was this Eastern Suburbs kid who skipped in from with his Toyota Celica. But hey, this bloke, he's part of us.
Yeah, I think as well the important thing there is nothing's given to you; it's earned. Like you earn that trust and respect from your fellow teammates because they've been through it all.
Yeah,
they've witnessed and observed what you go through, and it's like, right, you're ready to come with us now.
Yeah,
you're one of us, and the standards at the Bulldogs need to be upheld, and especially with youth. It's young men in particular that like they really do need that, and as tough as it is at the time, it's for the greater good, and it's really difficult to see and sit there and accept that, and you think you're being picked on.
Yep.
You think it's personal. You think you're being isolated, and maybe it is, but maybe it's for a reason.
It is. You got to earn the respect. That's very much how it was. The culture's changed. We know that. And an example of that is what's happening at the Bulldogs now and other clubs. I mean, I speak to Ricky Stewart and Manager Maguire and a lot of the coaches, and they just say, "Braith, people are different, mate. They're changed, But I think we've got to try and change that a little bit. We've got to toughen up the youth of today a little bit more because it's even harder now than what it was back then. I said it earlier. Cost of living, interest rates going up, separation, divorce. The reality is that we're kind of getting a bit weaker as the next generation's a little bit more sensitive than what we were back in the day. We're aware of mental health and all of that stuff. But,
I think as well the depth of talent has gotten bigger. So you need to find a way to win, which you need to be pushed even further, perhaps.
Yep.
Like, and again, this workplace is not for everybody. It's similar to people, and I'm not comparing athletes to the people that are in the armed forces, but those special forces people, like it's they're going to some of the most extreme environments with lives on the line. I'm very grateful for them that they're setting up this environment that we get to live and come and talk on podcasts and stuff like that. But with professional sport, there's jobs on the line, there's pressure on the line, there's legacies on the line, there's this striving for greatness on the line. So if it was easy,
everyone would do it.
Everyone would do it.
That's right.
Fast forward to your debut, and again, a lot of pressure. This kid at the time from South Sydney with a rich history there, a strong connection there, making your debut for the Bulldogs. And I guess it would be the similarity to today's day would be when Joseph Suaalii, he made his debut for the Roosters. A lot of focus, a lot of eyes. How was that for you as a young teenager to deal with this like weight of expectation?
Yeah, there's a lot of hype, but they tried to protect it a little bit. It was against Parramatta, and it was actually during Origin. So, mate, the likes of Ricky Stewart and Brad Clyde were in the team, but I think they were playing Origin or they were out. That's why I got the call up. You know what, Jimmy? Like, it's funny because you think there'd be a lot of pressure on me and expectation, which there was, but because I was so, and like I was talking about earlier, because I'd been successful at whatever I'd done. I'd always, I'd played schoolboys and junior kangaroos, and every sport I'd played, I'd done pretty well at, and I was a winner. So I was confident. I'd trained hard. I was in peak condition, and I'd do well at all the fitness and all that. So I just went out like I was playing any game, and that's I think why I kind of had a lot of success early, because I just played with freedom and confidence, and I'm better, and I'm gonna, whatever. Like it didn't bother me. It actually was the opposite to what you're saying, which I look back on and I can't comprehend now because I've lived such a long life and lived through the game, footy. But at the time, mate, I was just like, let's go, mate, whatever, and I played with that freedom, and it showed in the first sort of year or two of my career. I got rookie of the year 1 and did it on my ear. Like, it was just like, this game's easy. But then you learn it's not, but that's why I try and encourage guys to, when you play, and I think that's why, my first few games were like that. I hadn't experienced failure or criticism or, all that comes with the game, the outside noises, and all. I hadn't experienced any of it. So I was just this bright-eyed kid who just thought, let's go, let's play footy. And that's how it looked. But then things change.
They do. They do change. And then I'm just thinking back, part of the adversity you would have went through was that mutual suffering from the Bulldogs with the salary cap. But do you think they needed to go through that to win the Premiership in 04?
I'm not sure about that one. It brought us tight. Like we 2002, 17 wins in a row, almost unbeatable. But we were tight. Like we were already tight then. That obviously made us hungry, and because we worked hard as a unit, we just needed to win. We needed to win a comp. It was at that time where we were red hot. We were always in the finals. It was us and the Roosters there for about 3 or 4 years. Going toe to toe. The Roosters went on to win that comp that year, which was like a dagger. Watching the grand final, we were that far ahead of everyone that year, and who knows who would have won? The Roosters still may have beaten us. Who knows? You can't possibly predict that, but we would have been very hard to beat. And as if they weren't cheating the salary cap. You know what I mean? Like, please.
Was that some of the conversations that were had behind closed doors? Like, did you feel like the Bulldogs were being victimised, and yet you thought that
not victimised because they got caught red-handed. Like, one of the board members had the shits about something and exposed them. So it wasn't like it was. It is what it is. We were way above the cap. The players didn't have any idea. You don't know who's on what, or what they'd done with the books or whatever. So to us, we weren't over the cap, but we were. So there was no poor us. We kind of copped it, which is I suppose a good indication of what the team was like and the club that we're at. And then we went on to fight for that premiership in 1 in 2004, and we had a lot of dramas at the place over that time. But again, it did make us stronger as a unit. And I think we would have won anyway. Over that period, I don't think it was the salary cap that won us 2004. We could have won more. In 2002 we probably would have. But it is what it is, and who knows? But it definitely added to the power of the group.
Yeah, so you get to win that premiership with a group that you're so tight with lots of characters as well, to say the least. 2004, there's less social media. I mean, it's around, but it's not. And I think camera phones a thing then? I mean,
not really. It was starting to come in a little bit.
It wasn't part of the culture of like, I'm just going to film people. It was just...
it wasn't part of the culture. It certainly wasn't part of the Bulldogs culture, like very old school as is. Even in, like we had some loose... We played hard, partied hard. Like we'd get on the piss, me and Willie, Rennie, Sonny, JT, Rory Azatash, Jamal Alisi, Willie Tonga. We'd rip in so hard. Like, we'd go out all night, go to training, and we'd lead the fitness. Then we'd go and sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's how we did it. Like, everything we did was 100 mile an hour. Maybe not healthy now you look back on it, but you know what? We had a good time, and we won. We just kept winning, and you look at it however you want, but we just trained like beasts. There was just, and we had the predecessors before us, like Travis Norton, Steve Price. Pricey was still in that team. Mark O'Mealy was in the team. Well, the list goes on, but we had Darren Britt, and I said those guys, Polamauna, Darren Smith, Jason Smith. These guys just, they set that's how they lived their life, and we just followed.
There is something to be said that I think about that, especially with young men, people of extremes, and providing the balance. there almost isn't an off switch. You dial things up and you dial things down, and I know what that's like to be like, well, I'm all in at training, but then I'm going to be all in away from it as well.
Yeah.
And that builds connections. And as long as you back it up, that's where if it's a problem, it's a problem when people can't do what they do on the training field and in the 80 minutes in the game, but they still go and party. But if you're partying and ripping in and leading the fitness, and I've played with a couple of people like that, been that person myself, where I want to go above and beyond, because for me it was balancing the scales.
Yeah. Well, you kind of like, if you're going to, in your head, the mindset is if I'm going to go and rip in on the piss and have a good night, then I'm going to make sure that they can't tell the next day at training. Is that, so then you expose yourself, right?
Yeah.
So we just go hard, and mate, you'd hit a massive brick wall after it, but you get the job done, you move on.
So in terms of those 04 celebrations, who led the charge? Or is that a stupid question about like the amount of
Mace
people?
always led the charge. But we all held our own. There's no doubt about that. It was because of the build up, and it's interesting now talking about it, because I went to the Roosters in the end, and I love the Roosters too, right? Because they've been great for me. But at the time they'd won 2002, and we'd had such an ongoing battle that when we beat him in 2004, we were like, and we they were fierce battles, like on field, and also plenty of chat, like plenty of like fucking, personal shit said on the field, and like there was hatred there for that time. Like it was a real rivalry.
Those rivalries are amazing.
Yeah, you've been a part of them.
Like there's something special. Like we've got our traditional rivalries, but then when two clubs go at it and they're playing in and around those successful games, it's like.
But it's a respect, right?
It is.
It's a respect.
And there's no one without the other either.
Mate,
you need it. You needed each other.
You needed it. We needed each other. You got Morley, Fitzgibbon, Wing, Fittler, Ricketson. The list goes on. Like that was our. And when we won, we were like, fuck you, and we partied, and. We probably pushed the envelope a bit, and we had a double decker bus back to from the game to Belmore to the Lees Club. Oh mate, the Bulldogs fans are incredible. Like they are so passionate. You know that, man. They were going mad that the bus could hardly move. Like, and the celebrations were epic. It was like a World Cup win, like it was epic. And we just rode the wave at the Lees Club all night. We ended up in the cross with the trophy at the Empire. We went to some day club somewhere. Back to the Coogee Bay the next day, and we were getting tattoos, Bulldogs tattooed on us in Bondi. We chose Bondi on purpose because it was Roosters territory. Like we were like, let's go to Bondi and get our tattoos. And we got to Bondi to get the Bulldog. Well, it was me and Rennie and Willie and a few others, and the Bulldogs supporters already beat us there. They're doing hot laps with their Bulldogs flags on Bondi Beach, man. They're like, let's rub it right in. And they're like, but you know what? Half of Bondi couldn't give a shit, really. Half of them wouldn't even know the grand final was on. But we were like, it was you do what you do. That's you celebrate. You get a bit cocky, but we're only young too. You think it's going to happen. I'm glad we pushed the envelope because it didn't happen again for me. So. The celebrations were well worth it. How
good's that? Right, lads. We're going to Bondi.
Bondi Inc. No, it wasn't Bondi. I think it was Kaleidoscope back in the day, but it was on Bondi Road. We're just like, let's go celebrate in Bondi.
Way to rub it in. Well, mate, like you said, you end up going to the Roosters. Given those ties, like, what's that phone call like? You George.
Oh, mate.
I've got something to tell you.
It was because...
Or did you meet him in person?
I'd met him a million times because I wanted to... to be fair, I wanted to go to South. But they just got back in, and it was South or Roosters. They just got back in. But
so was there a chance you were going to stay at the Dogs?
No, the Dogs... I couldn't stay at the Dogs because they... No one knows. Well, I've told it before, but no one seems to listen. They didn't even offer me a contract. Everyone says you walked out on the joint. There's so many rumours at the Dogs. There's rumours I was rooting my teammates' misses and all this shit. It's amazing when people, like the rubbish to get spread. But there was, at the time, like everyone, because the Bulldogs, Malcolm Node spun it like I'd walked out. Like that's what the clubs do, right? I know how it works now. I work on NRL 360. Yeah. You start, the light bulb starts going off years later. He didn't put a contract to me because they re-signed Sonny and Willie at the time, which is, mate, fair enough, right? And they just said, mate, we don't have any money for you. And I'm like, I was crushed. I was heartbroken. I would have stayed there my whole career. Like, honestly, I love the joint. That made me who I was. And I didn't want to leave there. Like, all my mates were there. But the reality was I had to. There was no chance of me staying there. And it was through no fault of my own. Like, it wasn't my fault. Like, and that's something I try and clear up. No one seems to listen to it. But so then I had two options. I was playing Origin at the time. We just won the 2005 series. I was in the halves with Joey. And Sticky was our coach, Ricky Stewart, and he was the Roosters coach. And he wanted me. And then in the negotiations I had, I went and had dinner with Packer down in Bondi, and with Ricky and Nick Politis and in his penthouse on the Bondi Beach. And mate, they do it well. The Roosters do it well. They leverage their power, and they leverage the people they know that are involved in the club, and they talk a big game, off field as well. And the Bunnies on the other side were just coming back in. They were going to come last or close to it. I was at this point in my career, and I was concerned about going back to here and in a rebuild. I was worried about my Origin spot, which was really important to me at the time.
And that's a legitimate concern as well. Because if you're playing at a team near the bottom of the table, it's harder to maintain that representative.
It is.
Shirt.
So I had all that. South were offering me the kitchen sink, like it would have been life-changing for me to go there financially, because I was their local prodigy. I was the nephew of the president. I was I was kind of like, it was big, a big deal. And I wanted to play there, but I just had all these, and the money was good, and I love the joint and all that, but it was a business decision at the time. That was one of the most torturous times of my life. Like, I had to ring George and pretty much tell him I wasn't coming there. And he was heartbroken and heard our relationship there for a while, because he was like my father, But imagine that, it's not easy. And it was just this road you take in life, and I could have went either way, and I don't know what would have happened if I went that way. And I often think about it, because I do wish I played for South at some point in my career, and it's a shame I didn't. But what things happen, life, it is what it is. You make decisions and you stand by them.
Did the tables turn and he support you? And if so, how long did that take?
It took a while. But I think the tables really turned for him when they shafted him. South shafted him, and they, Russell come in and Peter Holmes at court, and George had fought to save South. Without George, there's no South Sydney. And then a lot of people knifed him at that time, and I'm not going to get into it. But so he kind of I think it opened his eyes a bit, like, oh, you know what? People can shaft you, and not everyone's so loyal, and like it's that whole perception of loyalty, and it's paper thin sometimes. You know what I mean? And I think he opened his eyes to what anything can happen with him, with that happening with him at the club. So we become close again, and he's struggling now, George, but we've been close for a long time.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So you land at the arch enemy with the Roosters. I can only imagine the.
Oh man, it was a disaster, because Sticky was a beast, right? And he demanded success. And I got there, and the club, even though they, we had some, they were kind of going through a bit of a transition because Freddie had left, which is the reason they got me a couple of years after. But they were on the slide a bit. But we were looking at their squad. I'm thinking, we can get back to where we need to get to here. But when I got in there, you could tell that there was the aura wasn't quite there. I don't know why. It was a bit of a transition period there as well, and I just stepped in there, and there was a lot of pressure on me trying to fill Freddie's shoes. And I remember in the preseason, I tore my groin, and it was kind of weeks out from round one. I was in peak fitness, like I was fit as, and I tore my groin. I'm like, fuck, I'm gone. Like I think I need surgery, And then Sticky's like, nah, mate. No, you're playing, like you're this, because there was so much, they needed me because of the situation, but I'm like, all right, and I have to, right? So then I kind of tore my other one, right? Because when you tear one, you often tear the other.
It compensates.
Yeah. So I couldn't step off either leg with no power or effectiveness, right? And my kicking, every time I kicked the ball, it was like, it was excruciating. I don't know if anyone who's done a groin, but it was excruciating. And I'm thinking, I'm going into the first few rounds here, and I'm not a shadow of myself. Like this is, but then if I pull out, I'm the new signing, new buy, like the expectation from fans.
Yeah, you've got different pulls on you, haven't you? You're like, well, I want to come here and make an impression.
Yeah.
But yet, shit, I'm nowhere near my best or my full potential. Not firing on all cylinders, like what? And there's no right or wrong answer as well. Like there really isn't. People go, "Oh, well, you should have done this." Like, well,
there's no right or wrong.
You don't know the consequences for taking a different option.
And I regret this one because I played and I was just average. I was getting by, but it just wasn't enough for what they needed and what we needed and my expectations of myself. And then got to mid-season when the season was pretty much almost gone. Like we weren't looking like we were going to make the finals, and I just had to get the surgeries done. I just had to. Got the surgeries done, was back within 6 or 7 weeks and finished the season off like 10 times better. I played really well and then led into the next, and then I was off and running. But, again, it's just that's just an indication or a story that people don't know. You know what I mean? And again, you go back to what league players go through or just – what happens in and amongst those four walls. People don't know a lot of what actually happens, You only see the end result on field. But that was a moment where I was like, damn, I made the wrong call there. I should have just backed myself and knew I wasn't right. And Sticky would have had to deal with it, and we would have appreciated the benefit of that early on instead of wasting half a year. But anyway, it wasn't a great start.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, the Roosters, while you were there, they finished bottom of the ladder. What's it like at a club like that? And how quick and how much demand is there for an immediate response?
Yeah, it's terrible. Like the Roosters demand optimum performance and success every week. The expectation is to win every game, and that's because they're winners, but their board, Nick, Politis, all of them are winners in what they do, like life. In their business, they're extremely successful, and they demand that out of us. So you'd come off the field, and you know what? Again, this is all part of building resilience and experiencing life experiences that make you stronger. But you'd come off, and if you're lost, you'd dread walking in that room. Not so much for the coach, but the board members. You got these, and they'd hate probably hearing this, but it's I'm telling you, and even now I talk to a few of them, like Kaz and the boys, it's still there. But you know what? Fuck. It makes you tough, makes you strong and all that. But you'd have Nick stand there like Al Pacino, just like the Godfather, and you've let him down. And he's standing there. And then you've got Gingell. And you've got Boris, and then the list goes on. And you've let yourself down, you've let your team, you've let the fans, but you've let these guys down as well. There's an expectation there. And it's a very different feeling, one that you got to get used to, because you don't get that at other clubs, really. Not the clubs I'd been at. Even at the Dogs, the board never really entered the change room. If they did, it was like high five to have a beer or whatever, But it was a different feeling and one you had to get used to. But it was unique. It was unique.
So the process of rebuilding, like training ramps up.
Oh, yeah.
Is that 4 or 5 type of reaction?
Yeah, I mean the training was always, it was similar to the Dogs. I do think there was a big comparison there in work ethic. They'd been built off training hard, and even though they were eastern suburbs and everyone said, pretty boys, they were tough. Like, again, going back to, Freddie and Morley and those guys, Rico, they were tough, and Ricky set that. Then we had we had Anderson and we had Graham Murray for a bit. Freddie came in. We had all that, mate. We had coach after coach after coach. So that was hard to rebuild, and that's that relentlessness and demand of success from the Roosters. That
they're looking for someone to come in and spark.
And if you don't do it straight away,
you're gone.
Your time limit there and your time frame is limited. You got to make it count while you can. So it was turnover of coach, different systems, different styles, different. So that transition was really hard. And then Brian Smith come in after Freddie. Freddie actually, when he first came in, was great because he's smart and we respected him, and he was quite relaxed, and he was approachable, and me and him were close, and he appointed me captain of the club, so he put trust into me straight away, and we responded. But the challenge for Freddie at that time was he'd never coached before, so he'd never been through. And again, he probably hadn't experienced loss much in his life as a player because he was so successful for a long period of time. And I think the biggest challenge for a coach, and Freddie probably learnt that, I would say, if you ask him, is the reaction to loss and how do you handle that and how do you respond with players and like Wayne Bennett and Bellyache and those guys, and even Steve Folkes when we had him at the Bulldogs. Their reaction to loss wasn't much different than their reaction from success. I felt that's I don't know. I haven't played under Wayne, so I can't speak for him. But I know with Craig and Folkesy and those guys who I had success under or played under, that they handled loss. They knew how to handle loss and not panic, and take a lot of the emphasis themselves instead of onto the player, even though it was probably the player's fault. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's a characteristic of coaching that I think is undervalued and not emphasised enough, because I think we all do focus on the win, and rather than focus on the reaction to loss. And if you've built the processes and you trust the process, but you don't get the desired outcome, how much are you going to change? How much needs to change? Is there an overreaction and underreaction, or is it I know I'm doing the right thing here, and I've got to stick to it? And mate, sport is so emotional, and you can think you got to change, and it's not just. And I guess that ability to block out the noise, because those are the things that pull on you.
Well, if your coach is affected by the noise, your players are going to be affected by the noise.
Well, even like, I've looked into how people treat one another, and you can see, you don't know consciously, but subconsciously, you can see when someone looks under pressure, and see when someone's rattled. And if your main guy isn't looking calm, cool, and collected, then that playing group go, oh, he's lost his conviction. He doesn't believe in the message himself. He's under pressure. Now we're under pressure, and it snowballs. And that ability to remain calm and how to react to a loss is huge.
We'll look at the greatest coach, Wayne, of all time.
You wouldn't know.
Well, you wouldn't know. That's a good lesson, actually, for guys that want to coach, or leaders. I think what we've just spoken about, I think that's a really good lesson, is not so much how you respond to success, but how you respond to failure, and what that looks like, I think can have an impact on the people that look up to you or follow you, I think it's a good lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no, there are times where you need that systematic overhaul to be like,
rocking up your ass and all that.
Yeah, you do need, but sometimes you got to go, I know what we're doing was the right thing here, and how I project that onto my followers or players, as it was.
Trust is a big thing.
It is. We're going to take a quick break from the podcast to tell you about AG1, the daily foundational nutritional drink with all your needs in the one place. I like to look after my health, and AG1 takes care of that for me. No more tablets, vitamin pills, all the health, nutrition I need, all in the one place. Every single morning, it's as easy. Open up the fridge, scoop of AG1 in a glass, cold water, stir it with a fork, drink it. It tastes great, and it helps me know. It gives me the peace of mind that all my nutritional needs are taken care of, all in the one drink. It really is as simple as that. And also, anybody that knows anything about health benefits knows that it comes with adding simple routines to your day. It's not about magic pills. They're not going to work. AG1 helps me be the best version of myself by having this new habit of every single morning having that drink. I know my nutritional bases are covered thanks to AG1. A lot of athletes are now taking AG1, and with 75 high quality ingredients, it's no wonder why. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/buyround. That's drinkag1.com/buyround. Check it out. Mate, part of that rebuild at the Roosters, and again, spoke about the at that lunch that we had, and the fan that said your field goal for the Roosters in 2010. I'll tell you this. So I can remember that game because I was in England, obviously following the NRL very closely. I already knew the result.
Oh, really?
So I'd seen the result, but then started to watch the game. I'm thinking, did I get that? No, Roosters win this.
That would be weird, actually.
It was bizarre.
Yeah.
I knew the Roosters won, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, no, they don't. No, they don't. Like, what the fuck is going on here? How?
Crazy,
what? Insane.
Insane game. Like, it was an epic game to be a part of. The Tigers had us, mate. We were gone a number of times. I think the turning point, when you look back on it, and people may not remember, but it was, I think, Benji and Piercy. They had a dominant lead over us, and they had the ball, and Benji got up to play it, and he's throwing a punch at Piercy, which you wouldn't think, right? Like Benji and Piercy having a stink, but it happened, and that was against the run of play, and then we just bang, bang, bang. We had. Mate, that team was electric that year. We come from nowhere. Like, I think we had the wooden spoon the year before. And Todd Carney, we bought Todd Carney, who got Dalian Player of the Year, and it was just fucking incredible what his season he had. Pierce, Friend, we just lit up, and got hot. And that game, we were flying, confidence high, and we just went bang, 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 got ourselves back into the game. And then the scrum. The hit from Simon Dwyer. On JWH, he probably would have got 8 weeks these days. He'd just play on. It was play on.
Yeah.
And we're like, fuck. Man, I'm one thing I do regret is I used to go at the refs too much, and I looked like an idiot. But anyway, I remember going, mate, how is that not a penalty? The penalty there, we win the game because it was we're one behind. So a penalty there, we win the game right in front of the sticks. They don't blow it. And they say knock on. So if I knock on, that was crazy. Even though it was a sick hit, like, mate, one of the hits of the century. We thought we'd been dudded, right? Then the scrum forms, and Frank Pornuasala jumps on the ball from the back row, not even lock, and the referee goes, "Yes, sweet, play on," which was astounding in itself how that was allowed to play on. So there was 2 moments that should have went the opposite ways, and then I'm thinking I have to take the shot. Like this, and I was saying at the luncheon the other day, I'd do field goal after field goal after field goal at training. It was one thing that, I'd pride myself on at the end of every session. I'd kick him from everywhere. So I'd done the work, you know, and I was confident with my field goals, and I'm like, I've got to take the shot. But we had Toddy as well, who could kick him, Piercy. So we had a number of guys who can kick them. I remember we got the ball back, and it was frantic. You know, we had probably 40 seconds, maybe. I don't really know. And the game was over. And unbeknownst to us, whoever had played the game before us that we needed to win or lose had lost, or whatever. The result didn't go our way. So if we'd lost that game, we were out. But we didn't.
Because that was in it was a different playoff structure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we didn't know. So the crowd might have known. We didn't.
Yeah. Wow. I forgot about that. It's a different playoff structure where it was the top. It's like the two highest placed losers still advanced with the 1v8, 2v7, 3v6, 4v5. Yeah.
So we didn't know, and we'd had such a great year that if we'd lost that game in that fashion and got booted out, we would have been like, "You're kidding!" Like it would have been shattering. So anyway, it gets to the point where the ball goes from one side. I get it. Had a look to have a shot. No, I just had too many on me. Bang, tackle. I get it again. Nah, go left. I'm thinking, how am I going to have a shot here? Like, and the biggest moment that is probably underestimated there is that Minnie got the ball, and Minnie knowing and having the smarts and the experience just looked for me, and I was like standing like nowhere near him really, but he knew at that moment, and the great players know, right? And he just hit me, and I just dropped it, and it was just one of those moments. It was such a surreal moment that as soon as I hit it though, it was never missing. Like I didn't even look. I hit it and I went, that's over, and just started running like a fucking lunatic. And it was like, mate, the adrenaline, and you know, it was just one of those moments that you work so hard like your whole career, and you dream of these moments. Like you just do. Like this is a moment that you dream of since the second you pick up a footy. And you're in the backyard and you go on, you know, John's, Fitler. Like I used to do those guys, you know. And then you just get this moment where it's like, fuck, I just did it, you know. Like, and you know, because I'd had a lot of, you know, criticism and speculation about my career, I was always talked about and all that. That's the reality. It was a great satisfaction to me to under pressure have to come up with the play and nail it. But the game wasn't over, Jimmy.
Yeah, it was still.
There was fucking a long way to go. And I got to the group and I said, we are fucking not losing this game now. We cannot. And I'm in my head, I'm thinking, we just cannot lose this game now. We fought so hard to get here. And I was pretty, like every play was nervous though, like in that moment, because the ties, scores are tied, went for 100 minutes, and every moment is critical. Like,
was it golden point or was it extra time?
It was golden point. It was golden point. Yeah, it was golden point because when Sean Kenny-Dow scored, it was over.
Yeah,
it was, but we couldn't split. It's such a blur to me. In between, but I remember the last moment obviously because Liam Fulton, who I got to know well at the Tigers, and he's a great guy and good mates with. He dreads it, but he skipped across field. Went for the cutout pass and skidsy. Sean Kenny-Dow gets it and runs the length. It was magical. One of those moments, like, you know, just for me to make people know where they were at that time. Like Tigers fans hate me, but they hate me anyway. So whatever. Like, they're not happy about it. But like even they remember it, right? But every Roosters fan, I think, you know, that's one thing they'll hold close to their heart. That they know where they were when they watched it, and it was a special moment for them, and that makes me feel good, you know. And it was something I'll never forget. That's for sure.
Well, I was going to ask you about this. So you spoke there about you nailing that moment, Minicello knowing, but it takes me back to the good teams that I played in. That they were prepared for chaos, and they were comfortable in chaos, in unpredictability, in volatile environments, and it takes me back to that my last game, the grand final with St. Helens, where the field goals hit the post, bounced down, and people go, "Oh, they got a bit lucky there." But if you go watch that game back, people chase on every kick, they chase lost causes, they chase just in case, and it was chaos. Yeah. But we'd been there so many times in training. Yes, the consequences aren't the same, but we were familiar and comfortable enough in that chaos that even all this shit's going on, players ran and knew what to do. Was that a trait of you guys where you felt like you'd almost already been there?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think, you know, at that time too, you've done the work. We were on a run. We were confident. Confidence is king too. Your body's moving. There's at every game that you play, you think you can win because you believe in the guys around you. So when you're in that sort of frame of mind and you're in that type of form, you often look at the players off the ball and they're always moving. You know, and it's a great point you make, because even the teams that struggle these days, if you look off the ball, you can see what's going on, right?
Yeah,
like you really can. And we identified that with a few teams not so long ago on 360. It's that, I think when you're confident, there's no hesitation, and in my opinion, in the game, you can't hesitate. It's that quick, and
it's instinctual almost. Yes. Like so that's why you do these hard yards in practice while you're in the shit, so that when you're in the game, you spoke there about Minnie knowing. He knew. He didn't think.
That's right.
He didn't think what to do. He didn't think to find you. He knew what to do. And there's a big difference. He's not playing a computer game going, I should probably get the ball to Braith Anasta here. It's just like, oh no.
And I go back to the debut of my first year. I didn't think all year, you know. And what happens is the more you play, the more you think, and the more hesitation you have. And hesitation, I think, is the biggest detriment to your game in as a professional rugby league player, because if you thinking about something before it happens or as it's happening, you're missing that split second. If you miss the split second, you miss that pass, or you miss that gap, or you miss that kick that was on. It's just got to be bang.
Yeah, you just got to know what you got to know what to do.
That's right. Hesitation kills you.
Yeah, Matt, you speak about the Tigers fans not loving you.
Oh man,
but you
it all started on a podcast, I think.
But you end up there, and you have spoke about you're at the Bulldogs, very high standards, quality club, a lot of resources. Moved to a similar club with similar traits and attributes in the Roosters. I assume you were expecting just more of the same. It's the NRL. You're a top 16 club. I'm coming in, but you say you never went to the facility.
No, I didn't. Sheensy called me and he goes, mate, I want you to come to the Tigers. And I'm like, mate, I'm at the Roosters. I'll probably play one more year there. I wanted to move into media and Fox. I'd already worked pretty hard on that throughout my career. And he's like, mate, I need leadership. I need leadership here. He goes, Benji and Robbie are getting in each other's way a little bit. It's not quite working out how we want it to work out there. I want you to come in and just kind of, split that up a little bit and just kind of sprinkle a bit of magic dust or whatever. Just bring what your qualities that you bring to the Roosters and the Bulldogs.
Had you played under Sheens?
I played City Country under him, and I got along with Sheensy really well. He was the Australian coach at the time. I didn't play. I played for Australia, but not under him. But there was a mutual respect, and he saw qualities in me that he thought he needed at the club. He didn't think I was never going there to set the place on fire. I was at the back end. I wasn't as fast. My footwork wasn't the same. I was going there to do a specific job. For Sheens and what he wanted to implicate into his game plan. And then I didn't go to the facilities because I just trusted Sheensy. I had trust in him, and to be fair, even if the facilities weren't good, with Sheensy there, it would have been okay because I know that we had a mutual respect for each other and we would have worked it out. And then I went on my end of season trip and got a phone call. Sheensy's been sacked after I'd signed. So the only reason I was going there really was under the terms and conditions of Tim Sheens and what he wanted and what he thought he needed at his club. So I was like, oh, fuck. It was bad. And then I got there and obviously, Mick Potter was a great guy and he's a really good coach, but his plans weren't going to be the same as Sheens, obviously. Whether he even wanted me there or not, I don't know. But He's, you know, he and the way he coaches the different machines, his tactics, and she hadn't been there as long as Sheens had been there, so he might want to implement his own style and all this. So it just turned everything on its head. And then I walked into the joint, and the facilities were poor, like really poor. And that's not the end of the world. It was just me stating that I'd come from 2 professional clubs, and 2 clubs that were successful, mind you, who just, you know, they just weren't where they needed to be. It turned into a nightmare for me there. But in saying that, Jimmy, like, because the whole team played poor, and we were on the slide. We'd lost Sheens, you know, Benji left, Bo left, Hines. Like, it was a mass exodus, and it was a bit of a shit fight. And I was just sitting there like a bystander going, what's happening to this joint? I've just got here, and it's a mess. But then, you know, I felt like a lot of the stuff I was talking about, I was actually trying to help the joint. You know, because even when I left there, I'm like, the facility's got to be better, the leadership's got to be better, the board's got to be better. And I said all this publicly, and I you know, was I having a little bit of a crack on the way out? Yeah, I was, because they didn't pay me half my money, and I would have been better off not even going there, because I would have earned more money at Fox, you know. So there was shit that went down there that they just didn't treat me the right way, and
I think as well, as long as it's true,
yeah,
which it certainly appears to be
exactly, Jimmy.
Then, you know, if you're the disgruntled ex-player and it's like, oh, kicking stones, woe is me, I've been the street. It's like, actually, I'm going to talk about some truths here.
Yeah,
and it's to look to.
But it wasn't
improving.
like that for me. Like, you know, I wasn't trying to kick him while they were down. It's like, this place is not where it needs to be, and I've played the game for 16 years at the highest level. I know what success looks like and feels like, and they're not even close.
Yeah, and it leaves clues.
It does.
Like you're not expecting to go into the Tigers and be like, I'm going to take cookie, like just implement the Roosters way or the Bulldogs way. But it leaves clues, and you can draw, and you've got experience.
In you know, like for me, it was like the Tigers fans and people from the club, they thought I was just, you know, trying to put shit on them or disrespect them. It wasn't that. It was I was identifying things that, it's like, you know, identifying things that needed to change for the club to move in the right direction. And you know, to sit here now and look at what's happened between the time I left and now, mate, it doesn't surprise me, you know. And I'm not like sitting here going, I was right.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here going, man, I saw this, I identified this, and I wasn't trying to be an arsehole, and I wasn't trying to shit on your club, but I saw this. And you guys didn't do anything. You didn't act on it, and you've only just kind of acted on it. We've got the facilities, which are amazing. They've still got dramas at board level. There's, you know, they're moving in the right direction, right? But they could have been doing this a long time ago, you know, if they'd listened to people that had been in the club, you know, and they didn't, and that's not my fault. But it was certainly not my intent to try and damage the joint. It was actually to try and say, guys, this is not where you need to be. And you're nowhere near where you need to be, you know. But anyway, what do I know, Jimmy?
Well, mate, you spoke there about the potential to move into a role in the media. You've been quite vocal about the effect the media can have on a player and the stresses and the pressures. And we all know that the media play a huge part in our game. They contribute financially, and the talk shows and for a player and a coach in a club, it's a lot of outside noise. But you know, for the fans, they love it. We give them more and more content that they want insight, they want opinions. Some of them are agenda driven. You can be on the receiving end of a positive piece from a journalist and a negative piece from a journalist, and your life can get scrutinized. But is that something that you're aware of in your transition, knowing what you know, what you've been through, and that feel of taking things personally?
Yeah, it's a crazy situation for me to be in now, because, as I said, I mean, I copped it from Buzz my whole life. I copped it from a lot of the journos. I was pillar to post, and I used to hate them, you know, and I really, really took offense to it, and it impacted me, you know, mentally and physically. You know, stories that sometimes weren't true, being put on show on the back page or front page of the paper when your performance wasn't great, being criticised and analysed to the nth degree. All this, I lived it. I went through it all, and I didn't like it, and it impacted me. So now I'm in a position now where I'm the host of probably it's the number one show.
It's the number one show, and it guides the rugby league week.
It sets the agenda.
Monday to Thursday,
it sets the agenda. Whatever we do on a Monday, you'll see it all week, or you'll see it definitely on every other channel, on every other news stream that day. So it's a very important job, and I'm very conscious of the impact it does have on players and coaches and all that. But this is why, the reality is that you're going to have to deal with these things, right? It's life. My thing with our show is that people just don't understand, or maybe just not so much don't understand, but mate, I'm in there at 10:30 every day for a 1 hour live show from 6:30 to 7:30, right? I'm doing 8 hours of preparation every day for that show. I'm making phone calls, doing video analysis, and talking to people within the clubs, players, looking at players' performances, and I'm making sure that when I do the show, that it is right, the information is right, I'm confident in what I say, and I'm also aware of what the journos are saying. So the journos, sometimes, this is another thing people don't understand, these journos, and you've had Buzz, they make millions of phone calls, they get into these clubs and get information that no one else gets. There are rats at every club. The eye-opener it's been for me to have the amount of people within the organisations ringing and outing certain players, coaches, is incredible. So a lot of people think
sad though,
it is sad, but it's reality, right?
Yeah.
So people think we just go on there and start doing these ones.
Sorry, Braith, can I just ask you? Someone calls you, do you always believe them?
No.
How is the process of understanding?
Yes.
Look, I can see what you're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Like player agents as well. I can see what you're trying to do.
You get a good read. So you know,
because over the phone as well, you can't get body language. No. You can't get like the cues that we all give when you can sort of tell someone's maybe.
You don't just get a phone call and go, "Oh, I'm running with this." No, but you get the phone call, then I'll go, "Hoops, have you heard this? Buzz, have you heard this? What have you heard?" Then I'll ring someone else at the club. Then I'll, the information, it gets around, and between all of us, you got Hoops, Buzz, Riccio, Reedy, Carianis. Between all of the journos and because there are agendas all throughout the game. Like I'll have episodes where Buzz will start talking, or Reedy or Riccio, and I'll know they've spoken to either the coach, and I can see where it's going, and I'll squash it.
Yeah,
because everyone's looking after themselves, like with all the South stuff and the dog stuff. Everyone wants to protect themselves too in these organisations and their jobs and where they stand, and players as well. So you'll have player agents ringing saying one thing, then you've got one of the coaches saying one thing, the actual players saying this. You've got to get to the bottom of it, but that's what we do. Like it's intense and it's extensive coverage, and we break stories. Mate, 90%, I'd say 90% plus are true. You know what I mean? Like we'll say things and people go, whatever. But within a week, mate, it's happening. You know what I mean? Like there's so much that goes into these shows. There's and that's why we pride ourselves on being the number one news show, a rugby league show, because we give information to people and fans that you wouldn't get anywhere else. We set the agenda, but we work hard. We don't just turn up and start throwing barbs or being critical.
Just dribbling.
No.
Like there's a lot that goes into it.
But you know what? Like this is the thing too. We put players on pedestals. Like I'm not going to name names because it's not worth it. But you put players on pedestals and we talk them up every week on Fox. And when they're flying, they're loving it. They're getting endorsement deals off the back of it. They're getting paid by Fox. They're getting X, Y, and Z off the back of it. Everyone's loving them. They're selling jerseys. They're winning the comp. But then they nosedive, right? And then we delve into why are they nosediving? Oh, hang on. Let's have a look at this performance or that performance or this body language or that. And it tells you the story. It tells you a picture. So then we say, okay, well, this is why they're nosediving. Oh, you're picking on them. You're picking on him. Oh, that's a disgrace. You're singling him out. Or hang on a second. You weren't complaining when we were talking about you, and you were running your promos every week, and you're benefiting financially, emotionally, and but all of a sudden, hang on, you're not performing. We're going to call you out on it. That's the tough part. Like, that's why you, as a player and a player agent now, you've got to teach these players young that you are going to be critiqued. Expect the criticism. How do you respond to success? How do you respond to failure? Block it out. Like, mate, I blocked it out when I was mid-20s, didn't listen to a word that anyone... I wouldn't watch my show if I was a player in my 20s. Honestly, I wouldn't watch NRL 360.
No,
I'll tell my clients, don't watch it.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
You know what I mean? Because it's not really for them. It's not going to help them.
No, it's not. That's it. It's a show for the fans.
It is.
It's a show for... It's an entertainment rugby league show for the fans.
It is. And, mate, I love it. Like, I've tried to lighten up a bit. Like, like that intense... the intensity is great and the news, but I've tried to lighten up, take the piss a bit and have fun with Buzz and Reedy and, and call them out as well. Like, that's the good thing now with Gordy, is Gordy's a realist. He's played the game. People respect him. But we call the bullshit out, Like, we're that fan now, or the player, from a player's perspective or fan going, hang on. Buzz, fucking, what are you talking about? Like, we'll shut it down if it's rubbish.
Yeah.
We're not going to feed the rubbish or the bullshit or, and they respect that, and the fans respect that. But I think that's why it's been going pretty well lately. So it's an intense job. But mate, you talk about chaos and working in chaos. Mate, I don't think I could live without working in chaos. I think it's just like my life's chaos, but I love it. Like, it's strange,
You're
like
attracted to the chaos.
Yeah, it's like
there are certain select few people that are. That they thrive in.
I can't sit still, mate. Like, if someone says go in your day off, go and lay on the couch and watch, I'm no chance.
You're antsy. Like,
I can't. I've got to go do something. But I think that's why it suits me. And mate, I was shit scared. Like, when I got the job, and I knew the power that not the power, but the responsibility. Because people do love it, like fans, like
they do.
People, it's funny because all the coaches and a lot of people say, "Oh, mate, don't watch that show," but they're the first one to message you if you get off air. They watch it, mate. Don't worry about
coaches,
that.
Yeah.
They watch it. People say they don't watch it. They're watching it. You know what I mean? And it's funny because a lot of people say, "I didn't watch it," but and it's like, you fucking watched it, mate. It's all right. It's okay.
Mate, you spoke there about Gordon Tallis. I work with him a lot on the radio. I really like what he brings. Was it a difficult adjustment to go from player host then to bring in another former player?
Yeah.
And how much work did you need to do in preparation for that?
Yeah, and that was hard. Like, there's no disrespect to Gordy because Gordy's a gem. You know that. And he's doing a magnificent job, and he's getting used to it as well. Like, because it's an intense role where you've got to host a show, but you've also got to be natural, and it's very conversational and debate, but you've also got to stick to a rundown and a schedule and hit certain points. So when I had my Kenty, he was experienced in it. He'd been there from day one, and he would realise at certain points he'd start conversation or go a certain way, and then it would give Ike or Vonnie or whoever was or me sort of time to kind of, okay, where are we? Where we got to get to? So when that kind of happened, my role really stepped up a lot, and I felt it was intense, and it still is. But the responsibility is more to keep the conversation flowing, to get from one team to the next point, to hit the right points, to know when, like last night when you and Buzz, you guys are kind of having your thing there and you're having your debate, when to come in, when to come out, when to let, because people are at home and you've got to read what people are thinking at home. You know what I mean? So I've got to go, okay, if I'm at home here, I'm loving this. So I'm not going to fucking jump in here. Like that's.
Yeah, picking your moments.
Picking your moments.
And then also, you wear an earpiece, obviously.
I've got diff.
So you're thinking, but then you've got someone else talking, and you've got advertisement breaks that you're on the clock,
right?
And I'm not hearing that we're on the clock. I'd still be talking and arguing with Buzz now.
But just for example, so I've got a producer in my ear for people who wouldn't know, right? And I've got the sometimes auto cue, sometimes not. And he's saying to me, okay, we got maybe 5 minutes this segment. Hang on, he's talking to me while you're having the debate. He's going, all right, mate, keep this going. Yeah, this is good. Don't jump in. Okay, hang on. Like, and he's talking to me. It's not always right.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get my feel. I'm trying to listen to what you're saying so I can react as well. He's talking to me in my ear, and I'm like, fuck, all right. And I'm trying to like I'm sitting here looking like I'm heaps calm when really the fucking mouse is going like this. And that's
you've got like 3, 4 voices all happening.
yeah, and that's But you know what? It's chaos.
Yeah.
And that's, I love it. And, this is another thing, like, mate, I cop my criticism, mate. Even now I'm judged on, like, you talk about athletes and us judging, athletes, mate. You're critiqued and judged on Triple M and on here or Fox. We always are. And we're going to be. You're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but our performances are important too. Like, we're a certain standard that we need to uphold, or else we're in and out of the door.
Well, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
Not in there.
Exactly.
Doing something else.
Exactly.
I prefer this level of scrutiny and criticism, feedback. Well, feedback, however you want to spin it, whatever your attitude is towards that aspect of it. It's like, well, what's my alternative?
Yeah.
No thanks. Give me that.
Very blessed, Jimmy. Very blessed,
very
mate. Very grateful.
Grateful. But it's and I practice gratitude every single day, every single morning. But also, it's a recognition of I've worked for this, and
great satisfaction too, mate.
Yeah, it is. Hey, just quickly on 360, you go in, do all these notes, all this preparation. You're figuring out where you think the conversation is going to go, where this person, this segment. What happens when you get that curveball at 5:30 on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday? It's like something's broke.
Yeah, it's
Braith. You're gonna have to scrap that. This is the top of the show.
Yeah, I've got to a point where I don't actually write notes anymore. So it's all just because I'm there so much. It's in here. So if something does change, I'm ready. The RLPA was a big one. When that happened and the strike and all that, because it broke late, and then we've got pressures on us from up above as well, because it's such a big deal, and you've got news.
Well, it directly affects the
broadcasters, and then how do we approach this? And there's so much that goes on with it. But I'm a bit of a silent assassin in there, because I don't say anything before the show, because what happens is the journos come in, and Buzz and Reedy and Ricky, all these guys, they're prodding because they want to know where you're going to go with a certain. They know the rundown, but they want to know your opinion, because it could change the way that they approach it. So I go in, I don't say a word, and they look at me and they're like, "What's going on?" I said, "Just leave it for the show, boys," because a lot of the time the show can be actually done in the green room before you go on there. What I want from
it's not. You don't want to rehearse things.
No, what I want is us sitting there with our own opinions, and the viewers seeing exactly how we think and feel, and genuine argument or genuine agreement or disagreement, because that's real, And so, I'll say to them, "Boys, stop, leave it for the set. Don't
keep it dry."
Yeah, that's last night when you got there. What did I do to you?
Yeah, don't say anything.
Buzz come up to you, and what did he say to you?
He was like, "Hey, like, get in here."
I said, "Fucking Jimmy, don't listen to him. Get in here," because Buzz, as much as I love him, he's trying to soften you up. And then come over with a right
or
hook.
Maybe try and find out what I was going to say.
Exactly. So then it would have been, you didn't want it to be pre-orchestrated or preempted, right? So then, that's the beauty of the show.
But you do have other avenues, another hat you wear. Player agent. Why?
Good question.
Because that's mate. I think if there's one job other than coach that I wouldn't want to do, player agent, your phone must never be off.
Yeah, it's full on. When I started the agency, I started with golfers, and it was because I couldn't coach. And to be fair, I wasn't hosting at Fox, and I wasn't satisfied. I couldn't coach. I had time on my hands because I wasn't hosting and I was doing off season. I had time, and I thought, how can I impact the players without coaching, and that's managing them, but different, like be hands-on, mentor, even train, whatever. Like being an ex-player and working in the media, I feel like I've got a lot of information and experience that can help them. So that was why I did it. I've only got a few clients now, and I'm happy with that. Like it's a real boutique sort of style, which I like because then I can put the time into these guys, and I don't ever want to have too many clients because we've all been there where you probably don't get looked after how you should, and it's a common occurrence. There's over 500 agents, I think, in the game, which is just fucking ridiculous. But I do it for the right reasons too. I'm not doing it to make money. If we do make money, that's great, but really it's about the passion there and being involved in it. You know, the fact that I've started hosting 360 and all that has impacted in terms of me taking the business further or to a higher level at this point because of the time constraints. So I'm happy with the small group I've got. I'm happy with the time and effort I put into them. I'd enjoy it and I'll continue to do it. But at this point, I'm just sort of, content with the work I've got going on.
Much difference between golfers and footballers?
Big difference. Golfers, totally different. Really individual sport, like they're not around a team. So,
what would you be looking for them? Like, because that'd be just prize money, right? Or are you trying to get them new coaches, like endorsement deals? Is that sort of how that works? Rather than you're not getting them a contract with the PGA
they're prize money.
Golf. Yeah,
golfers are prize money, and you very rarely get a cut of their prize money, even as an agent. You can put it in there if you look after them with certain things and standards and all that. But yeah, golfers are very much what you make off it, but it's very much based on how you perform on the course, and it's a ruthless sport. And there's only sort of 1 or 2% of Australian golfers that will make it in the European tour or the American tour or the Japan tour or the Asian tour, which are the lucrative ones. So unless you're on those tours, you're not making much money. The Oz PGA are doing a good job and they're trying to get better. But the reality is the prize money here is just, it's not good. So you've got to try and put a team around, which is what the model we've got now is put a team around 2 or 3 and try and get them on in Europe or America. And we've got Anthony Quayle who's in Japan and he's doing great, earns really good money. He was on the he come 15th in the British Open, the Open last year at St Andrews. So I'm passionate about that too, but it's very different. It is very different. The league's contracted. You get a piece of the contract, and then you obviously get a piece of the sponsorships that you get for them. Different worlds.
Yeah. Well, one of those players was Cameron Munster. He before he came on board with you was no doubting his playing ability. Was embroiled in a video scandal. What part did you play in the sort of rebuild of Cameron Munster? Not the player, but the off-field image of him.
Yeah, Cam had already been through all that before I'd spoken to him. We just had connected, got along well, and had a mutual respect. And we said, let's go. Let's work together on this next phase. Because he'd been through a hell of a lot. And he looked at himself in the mirror and realised he had to change his ways, and he made huge sacrifice in doing that. And one of those was coming on board with me, and I kind of said, mate, listen, this is where we're going, and put that behind you, and how do we get you back to where you were, And he'd already made a lot of those decisions himself. He was off the drink for a whole year, and put a lot of emphasis back into himself and into the team and into his relationships and all that. And then he's in turn, his footy benefited from it, and that was pretty much the whole of last year when he was just flying and he played and he was off contract. It was a massive year, but we just made sure that he was doing all the right things off the field, which therefore transitioned onto the field. But Cameron's you talk about play hard, play hard. It's party hard. He's certainly not a partier anymore, but he's an old school mate. He's like one of us back in the day. He would have fitted into the Bulldogs team. the Roosters team of yesteryear. He is a larrikin, which I love. He's different to everyone else. Everything he does at 100%. You watch his games and he just fights for everything, and he's a freak. But he's also very intelligent. His knowledge of the game is second to none when I talk to him. When he loses, it fucking hurts him. He doesn't want to talk to anyone. It hits him in the heart. Like, that's the type of like competitor he is. And I love that about him, you know. But he's got a bit of a loose side. So does Joey. So does Freddie. So does, you know what I mean? A lot of the greats do, yeah. You know, because that's the way that their mind works.
It's their personality, and they have to be like that.
That's right. But one thing about Cameron that he's underestimated, he's larrikin, tries to be funny. Sometimes he is, sometimes he's not. But he's very smart. Like, he's interested in investing, and he's got a few little businesses, and he's always thinking about where he's going to set him and his family up, and certain ventures, and looking to buy and sell businesses and property. Like, the guy is switched on. Like, don't be fooled. Like, you know, do not be fooled. And I love working with him. I love, you know, trying to help him and his family where we can. And I love talking footy with him because we can talk a lot about it because he's one of them. So, you know, a lot of guys don't want to talk footy. Mate, if I start talking footy with him and you just go, fuck, that's impressive. You know, like he teaches me stuff when I go on, 360 or whatever. So, mate, he's done well to sort of bounce back from that.
He's done really well.
It's a credit to him,
yeah, good on, and he's obviously set his future there at the Melbourne Storm.
Yeah, and that was a big decision, Jimmy. Like,
oh mate, it was huge.
He was going, like there was a point there. I shouldn't say that, but there was a point there where he had 1 foot, you know, and in the end, he just, to him, winning was too important, and he wasn't, and like similar to probably what I did back when we talk about the going back to South there at that point, but he just winning to him in his life was more important than the dollar, you know, and the gratification and satisfaction he got from being in Melbourne and winning premierships, and that's what inspires him, and that's what makes him get up every morning, you know.
That's pretty cool to hear, mate. One of your other ventures that you've got going on is the Strong Dad.
Yeah.
Can you just explain to us a little bit about what that's all about?
Yes, a Strong Dad, Jimmy. That just happened out of nowhere. I mean, it's big on mental health and an advocate for, men's mental health in particular. But, I was going through a bit of a dark time myself, went through a separation nearly a couple of years ago now, and, you know, kids involved and all that. And I was overweight and just wasn't myself, you know, and I started training with a mate of mine and lost a lot of weight pretty quick and got myself in a really good mindset. But we wouldn't just train. We kind of talk about life, right? And talk about our problems and get stuff off our chest just organically, like during a sesh, you know. Then we had guys come and join us, and then online we'd do a few posts, and I'm thinking a lot of guys start reaching out to me like, Braith, you know, and I'm not no Dr. Phil, but they go, mate, like, I'm struggling. You know, some guys would be, I'm struggling, or mate, I haven't seen my kids, or my missus has left me, or, you know, I've lost my job. So I just got this, and I'm thinking, you know what, how can we make a difference here? Like, how can we create an environment and a group of guys that can talk, train together, feel good, look good, have a good mindset, you know, find certain ways of getting up every day and being inspired. What's your why? You know what I mean? Like that. So we just kind of organically started Strong Dad, which is a training program, 8-week training program. We give the program physically, myself and Sean, the trainer. We do the program so you can see it online. We give you a diet to stick by if you want. It's up to you. My muscle chef are involved, BSC are involved, and we just set each week we've done like a podcast style. We've cut it up. We give you certain traits, or, you know, like prioritizing your time, or, you know, stuff like that, so that it triggers you each week. You know what you know, just trying to find that balance in life, and drawing inspiration from and just giving tools to guys to talk more too. We've got a Facebook group now where everyone's online showing their training programs. I want to get to a point where there is online therapists, and access to mental health help checks. But it's for all. It's not just dads; it's for men. But I think it's just been really satisfying to see guys, really getting a lot out of it and
making positive change.
Positive change, if you can just, if we can help one or two or three guys from doing something they probably wouldn't do or feeling shit, then I'm happy with that, But
have you ever listened to Peter Attia?
No.
I've listened to him speak about like just the benefits of exercise.
Exercise, man.
30 and he goes to like the very extreme example, but like if you just walk for 30 minutes 3 or 4 times a week, like there's no better thing, and you will not get a bigger benefit from doing that. Like eventually that benefit will diminish. You'll still get benefit, but it'll never be as big as the start. And a lot of it is about just building it into the routine of your life. And, just finding a way. That's all you need to do.
Prioritizing yourself, being a little bit selfish. Yeah, because you got to be a bit selfish. A lot of men are selfless, right? And then just, you think about you think I'm doing the best thing for my kids. I'm doing the best thing for my missus. But really, are you? If you're not looking after yourself,
you're not.
You're not as good a partner, and you're not as good a dad. You know what I mean? So if you're actually going for that walk for an hour, or you just go and do 50 sit-ups and push-ups, right? And you feel better, you're going to be a better person. You're going to look after your family better. It's actually like it's backwards. You're trying to do everything for everyone else, but you're not looking after yourself.
And also that exercise, that I can't remember the exact figures, but it reduces all-cause mortality by like a significant percentage. And if you look into the figures on deaths that are deemed preventable, is absolutely like shocking that we live in a society, and it's great that we get to that age and we almost get to pick our poison. But the percentage of mortality that is deemed preventable, it's like way over 50%. You're like, oh, like we need to do something. We need to do something about that.
You know yourself, mate. You look good, you feel good, and it's even if you look better, you feel better. You know what I mean? And training for me is really, I've amped it up, but it's changed my life. And I was always a hard trainer, but you just slowly fall off a cliff and you get to a point, and then you're that far gone. Like that's where I was, where I'd put 12 or 13 kilos. I was like, fuck it, I just kept eating shit and drinking piss. But now
you can spiral, but I reckon it's the attitude of knowing I've got to get back on that horse.
It's the discipline too, mate.
I'll get back at it.
Accountability.
Like I even spoke to my parents about these like preventable death and preventable diseases, and said like, what happens if I could give you a magic pill? Would you take it to reduce all-cause mortality? And they're like, yeah. I was like, all you need to do is just walk for half an hour a day. And they're like, how much would you buy that magic pill for to reduce your chances of dying? People would like pay millions, like you'd throw everything that you've got in your wallet at it, and all you got to do is just exercise for 30, 40 minutes, 3 or 4 times a week, walking, and then that might need to increase to keep getting the benefit. Put a bit of weight in your pack, a brisk walk, slight run, whatever it may be. But that's all you got. Give me all your money you've got. Guess what? Put it away. It's free. It's absolutely free.
I'm hearing you.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
It's crazy like getting that information, that knowledge, and then taking responsibility for it, because we do want to be good partners. We do want to be good fathers. We do want to contribute to society and our communities. And you can do that through a bit selfless, like. But mate, look, anybody that says, "Oh man, I just don't have the time. I'm too busy." Get your phone out, look into the analytics of how long you've been on your phone, and then tell me you don't have 40 minutes.
Please, mate, you can jump next to your bed and do 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, and a skip. Honestly,
and it's free.
Yeah, it'll take you 20 minutes.
You don't have to go to a gym. No. It's free. The solution
and
is
there. And how good do you feel after
it?
Like even mate, and it's nothing.
Yeah. Well, mate, I genuinely wish you all the best in that endeavor, because it's really, really important. And like, people don't need to suffer. The solution's out there, and it comes through that exercise connection. It's that holistic approach. Mate, we're nearly at the end. You'll be pleased to know you can get off and start preparing for the show. Mate, we do this for each and every guest. This section is brought to you by Tooheys. Tooheys are all about teamwork, Braith.
Yes, love it.
And no team works without a spine. There's no rules on how the on how your dream spine works, and be players played with, against, or watched and admired from afar. But the 1679.
Is this who I've played with? Or?
Well, there's no rules to it. So who you've played with, against, or admired.
1679.
There's no real.
Well, the 7's Joey straight away. I'll go Freddie at the 6. Who fullback? Played a lot against Billy. Billy was a freak. You got to go Billy, don't you? And then 9. You got to go. Well, you know what? I'll go Badiris, because you can go Smith because he's a freak and arguably the GOAT. But Bedsy I played a lot with, and so I've got a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, nice. Well, I think that's a pretty handy spine. Slater, Freddie, Joey, Badiris. Thanks to Tooheys for this. Interesting you didn't go with Cameron Munster. Anyway.
Oh, why'd you have to bring that up?
Interesting take.
That's awkward.
Hey, if football didn't exist, what do you think you'd do?
You know what? Like, what would I have done? I reckon I would have been playing either rugby union. I know but I was, because I was in the schoolboys union, and I sort of took the path to league, or cricket. You know, I toured with cricket.
Did you?
Yeah, I was #1 batsman in the state when I was 15. I actually toured with Warner and his brother back in the day, Dave. So I would love cricket, but there was a time consuming there, and then league and union kind of took over. But I reckon I may have ended up either union or cricketer. Yeah. Which is interesting. But I know it sounds like a bit of a wank, but reality was I was sort of on the same track with both of them as I was with the league. It's just that league was my #1 I loved the most. So I chose it.
Yeah, nice. The most interesting person that you've met? Not necessarily most famous, but
this is tough. It is an interesting question, because you meet a lot of people, right? And you meet a lot of famous people. I think the most powerful people that I've met are the most interesting, because that's what separates them from being normal and being successful, is how different they are and how intriguing they are and how interesting they are. And I think like Alan Jones was one I met early doors that really helped me a lot, but he was extremely interesting and intelligent, very smart, very inspirational, and was obviously very successful, #1 radio for a long time. But I'd say I've got to go back to Politis. I think Politis is the most interesting one, because for me, the success he's had is incredible in terms of business with his dealerships and property, and like he's the guy's incredible. But then his passion for the game and for the Roosters and the NRL, and what he gives back and what he puts into that, and how he finds the time to be so there. He's always there. Like he'll be in Greece at his house watching 360 on his iPad. Mate, honestly, and he'll call me straight after the show. Like the guy, but also the ability to, like he got rid of me at the Roosters, right? But the ability to be ruthless, but compassionate, and really give a fuck and care about you. Like, you know, he makes decisions based on the best interests of his business and his club.
Not personal.
Not personal ever. And he still looks after all the guys. He could cut you, but if you do the right thing by him, it's that loyalty and that Greek sort of, mentality that you do the right thing by him, you work hard for him, you'll be rewarded. And even the connections that he provides you with and the people that you meet through him, and he's just an interesting guy, and one that has had a big influence on me.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's any coincidence why the Roosters are successful and he's at the forefront of that. Like I've heard a lot about him.
But you never see him. Like, I think he did one podcast once and he got the shits because he didn't know what a podcast was. This was back when they were first starting. And then the people took a lot from it because he'd never spoke. No one had heard him talk.
Yeah.
And so you won't probably see him again. But
and there's something about people with that enigma as well, where you don't know.
There's an aura about him.
There's that, I want to know what.
Yeah. See, we know, and I'm not going to expose, but I know what he's like.
A sliding doors moment that you think about the alternative, or what would have happened had the alternative been chosen?
Well, I've got a few sliding doors. We've kind of spoken about a few of them, I think. But listen, the big one is the Ben Ikin leaving 360, because I wasn't considered a host. Even though there was people within the organisation who thought I could, they never really backed me, and I always thought I could do it. But I'd never thought I'd get the opportunity, which is why I was looking at other endeavours like sports management and stuff, because I thought I'm just not going to – that was my goal, but I don't know if I'm going to get there. When Ikin left, even then they were going to get Brandy to do it. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to get my chance. But essentially that's a sliding doors moment, because he chose to sort of move up to Brisbane and do his job there, and it's put me in the position I'm in now. And I honestly think it's probably my greatest achievement is what I'm doing right now. Like it's been a big challenge, and it continues to be, but I wouldn't be here if Benny Boy didn't leave. So it's an interesting sliding doors moment, I think.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny that the opportunities that come from it. But Matt, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you, mate. I look forward to working with you in the future. And I think love what you're doing. And it's interesting you say that about the greatest achievement being hosting 360. I wouldn't have expected that, especially after everything you achieved in the game. But it's those things that we spoke about at the start that have set you up for success. And I don't think it's by fluke either. And knowing how hard you have to work in order to maintain your position at the top, because if you don't work hard, it soon get taken away from you. But I think most importantly, mate, love what you do with the Strong Dad.
Thanks, Jimmy.
That's very admire that.
Thanks, mate.
It's good.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us,
Jimmy.
mate. Cheers.
Appreciate it, mate.